Welcome back to the HTML5 Essential Training series. This is Mike King with On Target HTML5, and I debated whether or not I was even going to do this tutorial. I said, you know what, let's real quick talk about the prereqs of some of the stuff that we need to have available as we're going through all the tutorials on our On Target HTML5, but especially as we start these HTML5 Essential Training series. I touched on this in the introduction, but it really does need a little bit of additional time if you hadn't gone through the tools section of the website and actually looked at the tutorial on text editors. So real quick, let's talk about things that you're going to need prior to starting your training if you really want to get the most out of this training experience. And the first and foremost is you're going to need a good text editor. And let me explain something. A word processor is not a text editor. Pages and Microsoft Word, which are two of the most popular word processors both for the Macintosh and for the PC, they add a lot of additional formatting behind the scenes as you're entering text. That kind of formatting we can't use as we're writing our web pages or designing our HTML, our CSS, or our PHP, or any of the scripting languages that we use to develop web pages. So a word processor is not a text editor. I can't overemphasize that enough. Because of the stuff that's behind the text, behind the document itself that does the formatting for you, it's not treated as a true text document. A WYSIWYG editor such as Dreamweaver or FrontPage from Microsoft is also not a text editor. Now you can use those type of WYSIWYG environments, the what you see is what you get environments, to develop your web pages. But I'm going to tell you something right up front. You're not going to learn as much about the actual scripting languages themselves if you're letting tools like Dreamweaver or FrontPage write most of the HTML for you. Granted, as you become much more familiar with web design and web development, a lot of developers, even myself, we go into those WYSIWYGs. I use Dreamweaver a lot. It saves me a lot of time doing a lot of the things that I'm doing. But I have an understanding of the HTML in the background and the code that's in the background that in the event it's doing something I don't want it to do, I know how to go in and fix it behind the scenes. It's much better as you're learning your web design that you learn how to do scripting language with a text editor and then progression yourself into these what you see is what you get editors. Don't start that way. Move in that direction as you're learning the scripting language. You'll be much better off as a designer and a web developer if you understand the languages that are in the background that these editors actually write for you as you graphically design the page. So I tend to stay away from what you see is what you get editors when I'm first starting out with my classes. Even the classes that I teach in the university, I don't let them start with FrontPage or Dreamweaver or any WYSIWYG editor. I make them use the first few classes. We use text editors so that you got a good basic understanding of how these languages work in the background. Next thing, another important note. Notepad on the PC and text editor on the Mac, they're not text editors either. They also allow you to do formatting with your document. You can actually change font sizes, you can make them bold, italic, you can tab. If you can do any of that kind of stuff with the application that you're using, it's not a text editor. A text editor is very plain and simple. It enters text into a blank field. That's it. So now that we've talked about what isn't a text editor, let's talk about a couple of very good editors that you can use for both the Mac and the PC to get you through these training series. On the PC, I recommend Notepad++. It is a free text editor. I will occasionally use it in the tutorial so that you can see that it's actually in my toolkit also. I like Sublime Text 2, as I said in the previous tutorial, but I have been known to use Notepad++. Very good text editor. You can see the website link right below that PC Notepad++ on your screen. That's where you can go to download this text editor. Very good text editor for the PC, and it's free. Text Wrangler for the Mac is also a very good text editor for the Macintosh. And there's a couple different variations of Text Wrangler. There are free variations. There are paid variations. Actually, that's the same with Notepad. The ones that you pay for have a bit more functionality in them as you progress in your development cycle, as you learn more and more about the different languages. As you're starting out, you really don't need a text editor that you have to pay for. Either one of these two free text editors will get you through everything that we're going to do and a lot more. One other fast note. Let's real quick talk about browsers, because I didn't mention it in the previous tutorial. As you develop your web pages, you're going to want to test your web pages in different browsers. And you will see me do that throughout these tutorials and all the different subjects of On Target HTML5. I'm always testing in Firefox, Opera, Safari, Internet Explorer, and Google Chrome. Those are the 5 most popular browsers. That covers about probably 98.5% of the market. You really need to test your pages in multiple browsers. It's getting better as we're moving to HTML5. Things are becoming more standardized across all the different browsers, but there still are some areas where browsers have not quite kept up with the standards and they're a little bit behind in their development, so they may not support things as readily as another browser does. And you will see as we go through our training cycle, or the training exercises in On Target HTML5, I will test in multiple browsers as we test our applications as we develop them. So keep that in mind. These are some prereq things that you really should know before you're starting out. I hope this helps you in your journey, and I look forward to seeing you in the next tutorial.